Hi, Charlie.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, so my name is Paige, and this is my twin sister, IVF,
Wow, okay.
Alex.
Okay.
We have two older sisters that are also IVF.
Okay.
So this is about IVF, of course. So I'm particularly neutral on the topic. I don't want to have like a forced opinion because like my entire family's kind of become a product of IVF.
Are you guys surrogacy too, or just IVF?
Just IVF.
Oh, just
Yeah,
IVF.
just IVF. But I watch your videos. And so I've noticed that in one of your videos, you do mention that you are okay with IVF, but you're morally against it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than that, but I have a lot of problems with IVF, albeit while acknowledging the fruit. I'm glad you're both alive.
Thank you.
And so that must be celebrated. So it's I'll explain the difficulty, but please continue.
Okay, my part one of my question is just as someone who was conceived through IVF, why should I also be morally against it?
Good question. Okay, so as a pro-lifer, first and foremost, we have to have an issue with the discarded fertilized eggs that happen during IVF. That's why you guys are twins.
Yep.
Is because during your creation process, if I can be provocatively blunt, you lost a lot of your siblings.
Yes.
Right? Am I correct in saying that?
So for our older sisters, they had 6 embryos in their batch. 2 came out, of course, but for us, there were 3, and then 2 came out.
Yeah, and so that's my first problem, is that it definitionally is saying, like, we're going to discard life to get to life.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. So
I do agree, but in a certain way, So in a certain way, those embryos, say they weren't going to become anyways, but at least we were trying because they were going to be raised in a house where we are pro-life and we really wanted to be able to have kids and cherish that. But by taking that loss, they were able to have at least us out of the 3. At least they could have the 1. So it's kind of, I don't know where I'm going with that.
I
but
understand what you're saying. So there's a pro-life way to do IVF, which is only implant the eggs of which the children that you actually want to raise. And so, by the way, you have a lower likelihood of working because in your case, it would be maybe 2 or 3. For example, the way that the IVF doctor will sell it is like, look, here's 6 embryos. You'll be lucky if 1 or 2 implant to the uterine wall. Let's see what happens. Now, in certain cases, 4 implant to the uterine wall and you get quadruplets, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what happens. I find that to be a little bit creepy, to be honest, that a doctor can kind of call shots on what life is going to live and not live. And I find that to be directly contradictory to my pro-life stance. The Last Rodeo, Angel Studios' newest family blockbuster starring Neil McDonough, hits theaters May 23rd. Become a premium member and get 2 free tickets to see The Last Rodeo on the big screen. Plus stream other Angel exclusives like Homestead, The Shift, and more. Help choose which movies get made and support films and filmmakers that share your values. Join the Angel Guild now at angel.com/Charlie. Don't miss The Last Rodeo, only in theaters. Let me go to my second point, though, which makes it even more difficult. I think it's a human rights violation if there are millions of fertilized eggs just sitting in freezers right now. Those are human lives. If we're pro-life, we believe those are human lives, and they're just kind of in freezers right now. So I have a problem with that. But I don't deny the fruit of how amazing people can be a result of it. Third, though, and I think this is most important, there's a great book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I encourage everyone to check out. In Brave New World, he hypothesized in the first chapter that there will be a day where human beings can be created without sex. And he wrote about in very vivid novel form what is wrong with that. So IVF is actually the 180 opposite of birth control. So birth control is sex without life. IVF is life without sex. So it's the exact opposite. So, and here's my final problem with IVF, and it's actually in a pro-IVF way. The people who do IVF are actually the most pro-life people because they want babies.
Exactly.
They're the last people that would walk into an abortion clinic.
Exactly.
So further complicating this very big issue. So would I want to make it illegal? No, but I have serious humane issues with that. I also think it's like the further Frankenstein monster kind of like we are going to control nature. Like we're resurrecting old species of dire wolves, like we're doing gene editing of CRISPR. I don't think we should play games with nature as if we are God Almighty. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that's how you get the worst civilizations. So all that to say, the last thing is Second to cancer, the worst thing a human being can suffer with mentally is infertility. It's a proven fact.
Absolutely.
It creates more depression, more anxiety. So there's no easy answer to that. So my advice to pro-life couples that want to do it, try to push back on the doctor and say, we're going to trust God, and we only want to implant the embryos that we would be comfortable raising. Do not act as if it's like a roulette table. Like, look, we're going to lose some of them, and I know we're not going to raise all those kids. If you fertilize the egg and then it doesn't attach to the wall with the full intent of raising those kids, that's more morally justifiable, other than we're going to throw 6 ones up against the wall and see which ones stick. That one I find to be bordering on eugenics. I know that sounds to be a provocative statement, but it is. Basically, we're going to kill 5 to let 1 live. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
And albeit, you guys are going to have a great life because of IVF, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I do have another, just like one more. What would it take for you? You kind of like answered it, but what would it take for you to be like borderline morally okay with IVF?
Yeah,
if
and
we are able to.
I think I've articulated it. It would largely invalidate the IVF. And what I've just articulated would make the IVF outcomes go down dramatically. Because the reason why IVF outcomes are able to be successful is that each round of IVF, if it does not attach to the uterine wall, the doctor says, well, we did 6, let's do 10. And let's do 15. Let's do 25. Now that's extreme, but it does happen where they want a baby so badly, they're just going to throw everything they possibly can. So what ends up happening is then they give the mom a progesterone, which then basically makes the uterine wall, quote unquote, sticky during her time of ovulation, which then can make the baby then attach to the uterine wall. No easy answer. I think, so last final point. Infertility, I think, is a symptom. It is not in itself a sickness. Infertility, I think, is a symptom of terrible diet, of genetic issues that we're not able to necessarily understand. And in my opinion, I think there are toxins that are poisoning us, that are artificially lowering testosterone rates. And young ladies, I'm going to get so much hate for this. If you never want to deal with infertility, be very careful taking the pill. The pill has a lot more downsides than they will ever tell you. Be very careful. As a man, I know I'm not allowed to say that. There's a lot of downsides to the pill. And am I allowed to say it? Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes,
because
sir.
the pill will dramatically increase your likelihood of going to an IVF industry clinic. Do you want to know the even more sinister take? If I was just caring about profit, I would try to get a bunch of 14-year-old girls on a birth control pill to addict them as an annuity, have them not want to have kids till their 30s, then they're infertile, then they have to come to me and buy IVF services. That's only if you'd want to make a bunch of money, though. Thank you so much for your time. God
Thank
bless you both.
Maybe please.
Yes,
both
you get 2 hats because you're twins.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How's everyone doing today?
Thank you both. God bless you guys.
You too.
That was a great question.